violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, cyberspace? It's a Black Gen Z mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
New tonight, we just learned the identity of the Fulton County inmate who was found dead inside his cell last week. Our sources say 20-year-old Shamar Mcleroy's ankles and wrists were bound at the time.
Dang. So this is the same jail, if I'm not mistaken, that Young Thug and Gunna are being held in. They say his legs or his hands and ankles or wrists and ankles were bound. I mean, sounds like they were doing something to Lil Bruh here. So this is definitely a very scary situation because you have a lot of inmates starting to, turn up dead in these prisons, not specifically in the Fulton County Jail, but all throughout the Metro Atlanta area, as we've covered. And I mean, this one is one of the weirder ones. A lot of people are trying to paint these mysterious deaths onto the COs. And even though we know there is corruption within the COs, we also pretty much know that to go this far is a stretch, okay, for a lot of these COs. So they're not really doing that.
The medical examiner tells 11 Alive just hours ago that cause of death has yet to be determined. Earlier tonight, we caught up with Mcleroy's grandmother, who says they wanted to help him but just didn't know how.
Now in the street, you just couldn't get through here. And so I said, we just gonna let him stay in jail.
So you thought he'd be safer in jail?
Mm-hmm. And on the street.
So he was on it. You heard what you heard what she said. She's saying the same thing that Charleston White be saying, right? He said they probably better off in jail, better off in prison, because she said that boy has so much beef in the streets that when he got to prison, she thought he'd be safer there, but it looks like he ran into some people who were connected to his ops in prison, and they made him pay the ultimate price. And I don't know if the YSL is involved in this one too, but it wouldn't surprise me if Young Thug and them was still getting busy behind bars. Now, I'm not pinning this one on them, but I'm just saying in general.
Didn't know how.
Now in the street, you just couldn't get through here. And so I said, we just gonna let him stay in jail.
So you thought he'd be safer in jail?
Mm-hmm. And on the street, but I was wrong. I was dead wrong.
The family says there will be a vigil and balloon release at the jail tomorrow night. So far, no charges have been filed related to his death.
All new at 6, another inmate has died at the Fulton County Jail days after the sheriff warned local leaders this could happen. And safety is not the only concern. Today, we got an exclusive look inside the jail where inmates are sleeping on the ground because they've run out of room. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Quinney is live outside the jail in Northwest Atlanta. Mark.
And there are a lot of questions surrounding this latest death at the Fulton County Jail, just as there are a lot of questions about whether the overcrowding here could be alleviated sooner.
And how do you think they're going to alleviate the overcrowding? They're just going to release these guys back out on the streets, which we can't have.
We had a death in the jail. It was somewhat suspicious.
A law enforcement source says the inmate found dead in a cell on the mental health floor of the Fulton County Jail Wednesday morning had his wrists and ankles tied when discovered by authorities. Another source says the big question is whether another mentally ill inmate did that before or after death.
I mean, are all these inmates mentally ill now? Is that what they're giving them? I mean, have the jails and prisons just become insane asylums? All these people with quote-unquote mental illnesses?
Another member of law enforcement, Fulton County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee, says he doesn't want to comment on specific items of evidence in the case.
Currently, the Atlanta Police Homicide Unit is investigating. Not to say that it's a homicide at this time. We really don't have any clear indication of what it is until possibly after an autopsy.
But he says now 10 Fulton County Jail inmates have died since January 1st, a combination of medical issues, suicide and homicide, all but one either dying at the main jail on Rice Street or after being transported to a hospital from there. Lee says he's frustrated that a planned move of hundreds of inmates to the little-used Atlanta City Detention Center, which would relieve overcrowding that has hundreds of inmates sleeping on the Fulton jail floor in so-called boats, is delayed, tied up while the city council awaits a jail population review report before allowing the transfer.
If we were able to relieve some of the overcrowding, the staff issue would be seriously diminished.
Colonel Lee says he doesn't know yet whether the jail's overcrowding and staff challenges played a role in the latest death, but both are potential factors to look at in any death there.
I am moving in a space where people's lives are in danger.
Colonel Lee has indicated the possibility of more deaths in the overcrowded staff-challenged jail was a significant part of the motivation for remarks Sheriff Pat Labatt made to the city council.
It's devastating that people are dying at the jail.
Atlanta City Council member Liliana Bakhtiari says she's one who believes strongly the jail review required in the legislation is needed, but there's no question the transfer will happen. Leasing the bed space has already passed.
There are stories and lives attached to these numbers. And so, yes, while it would be easy just to move them from one jail to the next, why don't we go the extra mile to find out what are the root causes of these problems and why is this happening and why are we getting conflicting reports?
She says she's concerned that if the Fulton County Sheriff's Office doesn't have adequate staff at the Atlanta City Detention Center, city personnel would be pulled in, and that might create city liability.
I believe that we have the adequate number of people to maintain those numbers of individuals that we've agreed upon to send.
Ms. Bakhtiari says she'd be open to discussing moving inmates while waiting on the review, which the sheriff pushed for, but the review report should be ready by mid-November.
Yes, it's terrible that they're sleeping on the floor. I don't want them on the floor. But at the same time, are these people that should be in jail?
And Ms. Bakhtiari spoke of due diligence, and I understood her to indicate she had toured the jail with the sheriff, that she's seen people sleeping on the floor in so-called boats. Sheriff Labatt told me moments ago the county has provided the requested data to the independent review panel, and efforts to get it to the city council have been somewhat complicated. I understood Councilmember Bakhtiari to say she hasn't seen the data. Reporting as of the time of our interview today, at least. Reporting live, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Tonight, a family showed up outside the Fulton County Jail to hold a vigil for their loved one, who they say was killed inside his cell last week. This is 20-year-old Shamar Mcleroy. He'd been locked up since February. While Shamar's death is under investigation, his family says something has to change now or more inmates are going to die. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn was there earlier tonight.
I need to know what happened to my son.
It's been almost a week, and neither the Fulton County Sheriff's Office nor Atlanta Police have released a single detail on Shamar Mcleroy's death.
No, Shamar did not deserve what happened to him in this facility.
The family says they were told Mcleroy's death is a homicide and are now demanding justice for the 20-year-old.
So, earlier, the officials said that they couldn't confirm that it was a homicide. I guess now that has been confirmed. And, you know, obviously, if his hands and legs are bound, then we're going to assume that. I'm telling you right now, these guys in jail, they ain't playing with y'all. And he's not even in the prisons yet. This is just the jails, and they catching bodies. So that is a testament to how bad Atlanta really is. That you got inmates who are catching bodies in prison or in jail, and they haven't even been to the state prisons yet. These super gremlins are on demon time.
Justice for Shamar!
The family says this vigil isn't just to remember McElroy, but also to shine a light.
It's definitely a wake-up call.
On a potential deadly problem happening behind these walls.
To send a message that this facility is unsafe right now, and before this happened again to somebody else's family, something has to be done immediately. But we still had faith in the system that he would be okay, that he would be safe. And unfortunately, that didn't happen.
A grandmother now second-guessing herself.
So I thought we just gonna let him stay in jail.
So you thought he'd be safer in jail?
Than on the street, but I was wrong. I was wrong.
And honestly, she wasn't even that wrong. She was wrong. But as far as the numbers go, she's really not wrong. Like, that, it is what it is. That's what's going down nowadays. It's safer for these guys to be in prison than on the streets because they're raising so much hell on the streets. So I'm not mad at grandma. You can't blame grandma for not posting that bail, not posting that bond, because she knew that, you know, her grandson was a super gremlin on demon time.
And a father just hoping.
I have no hate in my heart, but he cannot just be swept under the rug and not forgotten about. He cannot.
That was our Cody Alcorn reporting. And as we've reported in the last couple months, city leaders say there are hundreds of men sleeping on the floors inside the Fulton County Jail. The ACLU did a study on the jail last month, and as of September 14th, the jail was over capacity by 300 plus inmates.
Tonight, we're hearing from the family of an inmate found dead with his hands and feet tied up. The family of Shamar Mcleroy says his body was found less than a week ago. They spoke exclusively with Channel 2's Candace McCowan, who is live for us tonight at the Fulton County Jail. Candace?
Wendy, Shamar Mcleroy was facing some serious charges, including child molestation, but his family says he...
Dang. So this guy was touching on kids. I mean, no wonder they did him like that. That's what... that's the question that we all needed to really have answered. What were the charges? Because that's the first thing they gonna do when you step on the yard. What you in for? What you in for, little bro? You know what I'm saying? What you in for, slime? What you in for, gang? What you in for, little bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're gonna ask him. And it just so happened that maybe he lied about his charges. And them brothers ain't stupid in the jails. I mean, they are, but they aren't at the same time. You get what I'm saying? They're gonna look up your paperwork. They're going to find a way. They might have a CO get them the information on your charges if they don't believe you, if they think that you capping about your story. And it just so happens that, you know, they probably found out what he was on, and they did him just like he was doing them kids, except they took it to the ultimate level by ending his life.
wasn't given a death sentence, and that what happened to him here at the Fulton County Jail is inexcusable.
The chaplain called me and said that on the autopsy report and the paperwork he had, it's a homicide.
It's still a shock.
Okay, so confirming the homicide. All right. We just want to make sure that's confirmed.
For Rosie Gray, her grandson, Shamar Mcleroy, whom she's raised since he was a toddler, gone at just 21.
So you raised him since he was a toddler. How did he become a kid diddler? I mean, what part of the game is that?
I don't get no sleep. I'm just thinking about him.
Shamar's family said they discovered the news themselves online.
When we checked it, it said...
Lord have mercy. What? This woman has piercings, tattoo on the side of her face. Woo, it's looking a hot mess. So no wonder this young man came out the way that he did, because, I mean, he's just surrounded by very weird, peculiar individuals who, I guess this is an artistic expression on her face here, but I mean, you know, it's one thing to, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's one thing to, you know, be conventionally unattractive, but then it's another thing to add on to that by adding a big ass faded tattoo on your face and then all these crazy piercings. Like, this is wild to me. But anyways, go off.
Deceased.
His aunt rushed to the jail last week.
He said he is deceased. He was strangled. Detective Hogan explained that his hands and feet was bound and wrapped them up like a mummy and laid him back in the bed.
Shamar is the 10th inmate death at the Fulton County Jail since January 1st. The deaths are a combination of suicide, homicide, and medical issues. The jail is dealing with overcrowding and short staffing. Earlier this month, Channel 2 learned more than 450 inmates were sleeping in boats on the floor. But a plan to move hundreds of inmates to the Atlanta City Detention Center is on hold, while a jail population review is conducted. Shamar's family said all of that is too late for him.
I want to see justice. Something need to be done. Fulton County Jail should be held accountable of what happened to my nephew.
I said, well, he'd be safer in jail than on the street. But I got to admit I was wrong. It's not safe at that jail for nobody.
Channel 2's Candace McCowan back out live with us from...
Well, I know that there is some kid somewhere that he touched on, that he put hands on, who feels... ultimately feels safer than, you know, anybody in this situation now that he's gone. So like they said, it's not a death sentence if you do something as horrendous as what he is accused of doing, but, you know, I mean, that's street justice. If it don't play out on the streets, it's gonna play out in the jails, and looks like that's what happened.
From the Fulton County Jail. So, Candace, we heard from the family there, but what are jail officials saying about this death inside the jail?
Wendy, we reached out to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. They said they don't have a comment on this story. We also reached out to the medical examiner's office. They're waiting to hear from investigators before they complete that autopsy report. But the family says they're not going to let this case be brushed under the rug. They're going to be back here at the jail tomorrow night holding a vigil in Shamar's honor. Wendy?
All right, for sure. I know you will stay on top of this one for us, Candace.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, in school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.